Started here in just a minute. I'm gonna see if I can get the Facebook stream to get going here. Seems to be having some kind of issue, so it may end up being that only the YouTube viewers get a chance at this video. Yeah, I think it's having an issue. Okay, that's all right. We will just continue. Okay. Hope you're doing well. But we'll go ahead and get started here. Good afternoon. This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for July 12th, 2019. SPY up 0.41% and the Qs up 0.48. Okay. Coming into today, as you recall, we were bullish, right? We had a pivot here to work with on the hourly. I said 191.80. We would switch to a neutral bias if we broke that, and then on the SPY here, if we get under 298.60 or 298.20, then we would go neutral. But instead, what did we do? We moved back up and continued higher. So bullish bias, right? Pullbacks are buyable. Expectation is that the time frame alignment continues. We have a bullish looking daily, a bullish looking weekly, a bullish looking monthly. So just expecting higher prices, right? SPY made new highs today. Okay, so we were neutral for a bit here when we came in a couple weeks ago, right? And here we switched to a neutral bias, wanted to see if we would get follow through to the downside. If we got follow through, then we can look for the next setup. You can see, so we really haven't been bearish for quite a few weeks now, just remaining bullish. We had some semblance of an hourly downtrend. It was a very short-lived downtrend here, really only lasted for a couple days. And then once we got out of that downtrend, we've been bullish ever since. We did for a period of time go to neutral, and then we've been bullish this whole week. So yeah, just continuing here. I know it's not the most exciting here to go over the market bias because it is so consistently bullish, and even times where it might be bearish, we didn't really have the go ahead to be bearish because we were right into support. So just following the chart here as we continue, we'll see if the banks shake things up next week as they signal the start of earnings season. Okay, so being focused next week, ready to go, and consistent will be crucial to having a nice profitable week next week. All right, so Qs and SPY both bullish going into Monday. All right, let's go over the stuff from today. So starting off with today, I do want to go over the favorites, and I'll try to do that throughout the week next week of kind of what the morning favorites were pre-market and then what ended up being traded. So you can kind of see the progression of the preparation to the execution. Okay, so on the SNAP, we were getting a gap up right here over this topping tail. You can see this is basically where the high is basically where it opened. Was looking higher on the weekly, although it's a little bit too far gone, and then looking higher on the monthly as well, but in running into some resistance there. So I did like the snap for higher. I wanted to see maybe this was gonna finally get follow through from this daily breakout that we got, but there was no play on it because it just came in right at the open. So this immediately just came in. There's no setup here. There's no 2-minute high low. There's no pullback. There's no basing for a breakout. So that just told me that there weren't really that many interested buyers at this price, and so from that point on, the snap wasn't really a play. There were, I think, some people interested in this base here. I was on the mic. We were going to lunch. Someone asked, "What do I think about playing this long?" I said it does look okay, but wait for a secondary entry. Let it make its move, and then prove to you that it wants to go higher because the market's been moving up, and this has been staying at the lows, and that's telling me that there's not really demand for this. People aren't in a rush to take a piece of this to commit to this, and so you can see at the end of the day here, staying pretty weak. We also had this HCSG, which I thought reminded me of the IRM from yesterday. Okay, so we have a base here, right? It's gapping underneath a recent move up, gapping underneath, right? And so I wanted to see if this can break this space and then I can play it. Okay, so it wasn't really for the open, but if this can get going, prove to me that sellers are stepping up in force, then maybe we may have something like the IRM on our hands. So as you can see also, where did the IRM initially start the gap? In here, inside the base. So you had a recent move up on the IRM and then it got sold and then it gave us a retracement, right? I think the entry was around 30.30, right? And this ended up closing at 29.40. And so this set up pretty well after breaking the support. So that's what I wanted to see from the HCSG. And as you can see here, since we only have 3 minutes left, this never was able to break. So while this did get some follow through initially, the support was still in the way. So there was no play on the HCSG. So no play on the snap, no play on the HCSG. On the Ford was gapping up. Just clearing this base here. I would have liked it better if it was gapping over 1050, okay? But it wasn't, and so I was kind of holding this one off for later in the similar way that the HCSG was better for later. But this Ford did end up getting called. So this Ford did get called. I'll talk about why this Ford was an official play here, why this was called for the room. And that's because if you look at the way that this was setting up here, basing up at the highs, doesn't want to come off the highs, topping tail there over 1041. And then what was the market doing at this time, right? What were the SPY doing at the time? If we look at the first 30 minutes or so, okay, SPY was doing this. SPY was peeling off the highs. So this was kind of coming back in to test the lows, eventually did resume the uptrend. And since it, obviously since it's back up at the highs now here on the SPY. But there was a clear relative strength on the Ford this morning. Okay, so that's what was attractive to me about playing this Ford here. Right, so we did play this breakout, kind of went up, didn't really get enough out of it there. And then we did have 1049 as the target one, and it did reach it. And so I know some of the people in the room took it, so that was good. I actually decided to just try to hang on to it, and then eventually did get trailed out of it. So it was a small winner there on the Ford, but just didn't end up moving that much. Most of the move was made in the morning. That's fine. This is kind of like the VSH from yesterday. We get a little bit of a move and kind of run out of time. Except the Ford, we actually started this one in the morning, and the VSH we played late in the afternoon. And that one, I didn't go over it yesterday. There wasn't really much to go over. We played it kind of near the end of the day there, and then kind of just took it over the 5 minute here. So we played it as it broke 38 right here, and kind of waited and waited and waited, and then we ran out of time. So that's fine. I mean, as long as I'm in position to take advantage, small winners are not bad. And so that was it really for today. We just had this Ford from me, and had some other plays that I was looking to play. Snap potentially, the HCSG potentially, but since they didn't set up, there was no play on them. So I think there'll be a lot of that next week as well as we get more activity. So it's one of those things. Sometimes I do have to remind some of the coaching clients, because there will be plays and sometimes they don't trigger and they get canceled, that it doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, the market's sloppy or the plays aren't acting right or anything. That's just standard procedure, right? If we have a pattern, the pattern doesn't trigger and gets invalidated, stuff like that, that's fine. That just is, on to the next play. No harm, no foul, right? So stuff like this, Snap not really setting up, HCSG not really setting up. There'll be a lot more of that coming up, so it's not a big deal. But I just want to make sure that you get a kind of feel for the process, starting from the pre-market all the way to the execution of the play, to the management, and to when the trade is closed. Okay, so that's basically kind of the day in a nutshell. Not too busy, pretty quiet, and that's what we expected, right? We talked about it yesterday. That yesterday, hopefully, is a precursor of things to come, but Friday probably going to be pretty quiet because it's a really small earnings list. I think the only one that seemed to be having a report that was somewhat tradable was the INFY, and this one's an ADR, and I typically avoid ADRs. Okay, so because a lot of times their trading is not done primarily in the U.S. markets. Okay, so it reduces the amount that they're going to move. So that's the reason why. Okay, Qs and SPY closing up here at the highs. Bullish bias resumes going into next week. I hope everyone has a nice weekend and you are ready to go next week, because next week will be plenty. Well, I think it'll get more busy the week after, but it will definitely pick up as in comparison to this week and last week. Okay, so I would treat this weekend as your last chance to iron out any issues in your trading, right? Finalize your trading plan, get the structure down, right? Know what the process is going to be for your scanning, for your order execution, all of that, right? Should be a well-oiled machine by next week, okay? And if you'd like some additional ideas, also trades to follow, we are still running the promotion for the Strategic Day Trader Room, okay? And the next few weeks will be really where you'll get a lot out of it, okay? Especially when it comes to trading ideas. I think for those of you that joined in the last couple weeks, I think you've had a lot of time to get acclimated to the room, get questions answered, learn about the methodology, right? And then next week will be the chance to really put it through its paces, and benefit from it. All right. So hope everyone has a nice weekend. All right. And I will talk to you on Monday. Good evening, everyone.